guys, welcome back to another episode of Play Like a Girl. I'm your host, Gianna Cambria. As always, I do not know what episode we're on because there's been so many, but this week we have an amazing guest. She is so inspirational, and I'm so excited for you guys to learn her story. So I'm excited to tell you that we have Alex Martin with us here today. Hi, Alex. How are you?
Hi, thank you for having me.
No problem. I'm so excited that you're here.
First time in a podcast, so I guess.
Oh, I'm so happy that this is your first one.
Oh, it is. We'll remember.
No pressure at all. This is going to be super easy, and everybody here is here for you to learn your story. So
I'm excited.
all right. So the first question that I have for you is, what sparked your interest to pursue a career in the public relations, journalistic communications world?
Well, I always knew I'm like a people's person. I like interacting with people and everything. So like communication was always kind of like the approach that I wanted, but I always knew I wanted to do it in sports, especially women's sports, because I used to play soccer like up to high school, too many injuries. That was not gonna translate on the go. So I like wanted to do like more of like the communication side of it. So that has always been like my interest. So kind of like my goal was just kind of to make it into like a sports communications for women's sports and helping grow the game. So that's kind of like what took me into choosing this major kind of thing.
Well, that's very interesting because I kind of am studying the same thing that you are, and I didn't know that I wanted to pursue a career in the sports side of it until I actually like landed this internship that I have now, and now this is just like sparked everything. It's all my interests are in sports now.
But that kind of like that's how it goes. I feel like if you aren't in it, like you're not gonna want to do it. Like for me, it was like that I used to play. So then I was like, well, if I cannot play later on,
Yeah.
I still want to be able to like help the game grow and like bring attention to it in however way I can.
No, definitely.
And that's how can we do it.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, like, I love sports growing up, just like you did. But of course, I didn't pursue it to the college level. So I was like, I did. So yeah. The next question that I had was also pertaining to where you go to school, which is Purdue University, right? And if you look it up, it's one of the top programs in the United States for the communication school. So what is it like pursuing your dream career at such a highly educated place?
Honestly, when I was looking, like I was like for schools, I was like, oh, I don't really have a dream school or anything. And talking to my friends, they were like, oh, but it has like a good one, like a good program. And I was like, yeah, well, you know what, like I'm gonna apply. And I ended up applying, and I kind of forgot that I applied, and then I got in, and like I came and just seeing the place, like the campus and everything, I fell in love with it. And then like knowing how good of a communications like department they had really helped, because it was like, well, like it's a place that people know and everything. So like it can help me later on. Like, well, it will challenge my education, of course, and like force me to learn things at a higher level, but also like later on, I know people know the school and like the reputation. So that definitely had to do with the decision. And it's awesome just knowing that I get to do it here.
Yeah. And it's always great to know that you're being challenged in your courses that you're taking as well. It'll just help you grow with your professional career as well in the future.
Oh, for sure. It actually like the first press release I did was like actually like the semester right before I had my internship. And I was like, thank God, because I would have never like it at least like helped me like know what I was supposed to do beforehand.
No, for sure. I definitely agree. But yeah, being challenged in education is something that like something that I encourage for everybody to
Mhm.
do. But sometimes it's hard, but you just have to keep pushing yourself through it.
Oh yeah. Oh, every day I'm like, why did I do this to myself?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, it's okay. You're gonna graduate. You're gonna be fine. You're doing okay.
No, I understand because I've had like 14 pages of written essays due in the past 3 days. So it's definitely a lot, but it's worth it.
Yeah, I have one next week, so
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
So obviously in your freshman year, you created a platform called Football's Media
Yeah.
because you knew that there was a lack of Spanish coverage in soccer around the world. So can you talk to us about this and how did you ultimately come up with that idea?
Yeah, so my freshman year, I want to say in like March. So like the NWSL season was going to start and no one was covering it in Spanish. So I had this friend that she reached out to me and she was like, "Hey, like I know you like soccer and like you're interested in this and all that. I want to like create this page, but like she wanted to focus more like she wanted to do the podcast,
Mhm.
but like of course you also like no one is covering and like written like in Spanish. So like the easiest way is not only having it on a podcast, but also writing so you can actually get more people to like see the material and like follow the lead. So we were like, okay, like I did all the writing or most of it, and like she did the podcast. So then we could like tackle both things and kind of like start reaching, of course, like it takes a while to like grow a page and anything, but like we just kind of started from there and we did it both of us. She kind of like had like the initial idea and then we just took it and then created an Instagram and everything. So I managed like the Instagram and then we did like live tweeting
Mhm.
of games. We focused mostly on CONCACAF, the conference, so that we wouldn't like open too much and like then put too much work and then not get anything done.
Mhm.
And mostly the NWSL, which is what I'm my best at. And like I want to say, like 2 years into it, like we were able to get three more writers, so then like they can help with that, and like I can focus more on like the Instagram and everything because well, the one that the co-founder, she well graduated 2 years ago,
Mhm.
so she's like she has an actual job and everything that she also needs to focus on. So like we also wanted to like grow it and like give more people a chance. Like the three writers are not even here in the US. Like
Yeah.
it kind of like brought a lot of people, like, it brings people together and we're able to cover more, which I don't know, it's really exciting. I've always wanted to do it in Spanish is my first language. So,
Exactly. That is so exciting. And we that's kind of what we do here. We started very small and we grew like you get.
mhm.
And also I just wanted to tell you my mom's first language was Italian. So any second that she gets
Oh,
to ever like talk in it or to pronounce like to tell anybody or watch something
mhm.
for us, she gets, which is very
Oh, it's the best.
hmm and she
Definitely.
definitely it helps her with Spanish too. She's
Hmm.
mostly fluent in it as well.
Oh, I took actually Italian in college, so I know a little because it's so similar to Spanish. I can read. I can't speak it. There's
Yeah.
no way, but I can read it and I understand it.
Definitely. So obviously talking along the lines of this, when people get into the real world and create pages like this or create
Mhm.
anything, obviously they start from the bottom and they make their way up. And in your case, so is there any piece of advice that you would give to aspiring communications people, public relations people, journalists out there, especially female ones?
I will say the two main things that I think I've learned, at least, is like one, it takes a lot of time for people to notice like the work that you're putting or like notice your page or whatever it is that you create. So
Mhm,
like you need to have the patience to for
mhm.
it took like what 3 years, 4 years, and people still like it's not that they fully know the page, but like it has traction.
Yeah.
But like that is what helped me land my internship with Washington. And two, like don't be shy to like ask
Mhm.
in the sense of like you have to almost create like the NWSL or like women's sports in general. Like as females, so it's harder. It's very hard to like just have a job handed to you and like you need to know to like a lot of times you're gonna have to be the one that asks. Like I was the one that asked. I reach out to like teams and Washington reply to me, Washington Spirit, and then like they were like, oh yeah, like you can like be an intern. It's unpaid and it's everything, but like the experience that he has given me and the doors have been and like the networking has been huge, but it's just because like I reach out.
Yeah.
Like more like doing it and like that having something to show for yourself of like, hey, like you are like, oh, I've done this podcast, like I can help it. Like it will pay off. It just will take a while.
Yes, definitely. And I also agree with you about not being scared to reach out. That's very important in general to carry it throughout your life, no matter what situation you find yourself in. And in one of the classes that I've taken for internships, we were working on a cover letter, and in it, she literally says to say, even though you applied, type that you're going to reach out to them in a couple of days, so they see that you're interested and that you really want this position.
Oh, that's really good. That's actually really smart.
Yeah, which is something that like a lot of people are scared to do.
Yeah, and I guess it is also like it is discouraging sometimes when someone be like, oh no, or like they don't reply. But I'm like, all you need is one person. And like it might take a while, but like all you need is one person. Also, like even if you just reach out and like then they saw your name and they remember you when like they see your application, like even the smallest interaction can go such a long way.
Yes, it's that spark for them, something that you hold on to. So, moving on a little bit into your career, was there any point that you were nervous, typically when you began collaborating with the NWSL?
Oh my God, I think all the time. All the time because not like now, luckily, luckily with COVID, like things has been through Zoom. So like we are able to be in the media room or everything like that. Well, I've been with the Spirit since it happened, so it's a little different. Like I just manage most like the social media, make sure everything is up to date and everything for the football days. Like, talk to the writer. But like the writers are the ones that join. But before we wouldn't be able to do that. So like now it's just we're able to be in the room and like be part of the NWSL media.
Mm-hmm.
So that's nice, but I'm still terrified because you never really know like how like if it stopped being on Zoom, like how are we gonna like how approach like get the interviews that are now in person. So it's also like with female sports, like they change so much and like that you never really know. It's not the most stable career. So like I will say I'm there, like I'm graduating in May and I'm hoping I get to stay in the league somehow, but like because that will be my dream job. But I like with the team, so we'll see. It's always scary.
Yeah, but that would be amazing if you stayed with them. I hope that you do.
Oh, I hope so too. We'll keep you posted on that.
So, how did you feel when you received this opportunity from them?
From the Washington Spirit?
Yeah.
Oh, I was so happy because I'd reach out to like the communications coordinator and I was just like, hey, like this is what I do, this is what I want to do. And he reached out super quick. And honestly, I was so happy and they have been amazing. Like they taught me pretty much everything I know, to be honest, because I've had to write things that I've never written.
Yeah.
So I was just thrilled and like knowing that like this experience also like connected me to so many people. It's just like it's kind of priceless. Like I wouldn't have been able to do it any other way.
Oh, definitely. It's all about the connections.
Mm-hmm.
Got to keep those up.
Networking is huge, which is also like why platforms like Women in Soccer are so important. That's how well I got connected to you. Like the networking never really fails if you are willing to.
Exactly. It never does. You just can't be afraid to do it, talking about before.
Yeah, but it's always terrifying. And if you're shy, it's awful.
But when you do it, it's like a big weight is lifted off your chest.
Also, you realize that people are really also as nervous as you are. They are as nervous as you are. Like they're waiting just for someone to like do it, and like if you do it, they are impressed by it.
Yeah,
just gotta know kind of how to sell yourself.
Exactly, though, because a lot of the girls that I have or a lot of the women that I have on this podcast, whenever I'm in the waiting room with them before we go live, they're like,
Mhm.
"Oh my God, I'm so nervous." And I'm like, "Well, I'm just as nervous as you are. Like, don't be
And you're like, we're all in this together.
Yes, we're all in it together." So when I was looking you up before, I came across your LinkedIn, which we were just talking about making networking
Yes.
connections. And you mentioned on there that you're passionate about soccer and helping grow the women's game through your work. Would you say that your passion for soccer began at home in Miami where you grew up?
Oh, it actually even before that because I'm from Venezuela. I was born there and lived there until I was 12.
Oh.
And until then, I played futsal. I played so 5v5.
Mhm.
So I've always been like in love with the game, like obsessed. And then when I moved to Miami, I played field like 11v11, normal, and obsessed with it and like obsessed with following. I've always followed like, World Cups, everything. And once I started knowing that there was like this whole like women's soccer like side, mostly when I got here that like the NWSL was kind of picking up around that time.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was just like, I don't know how, but I need to work there. Like
Mhm.
for one of the teams, for the league, for like I need to do it. So
Mhm.
like it's been the thing that like no one in my family played soccer or anything. So it was kind of a thing that I guess I was born with the passion for it.
Yeah, well, that's interesting though, because usually it starts with a family member doing it prior to you.
Yeah, I don't know. It just happened. My parents are still like, we don't even know how that happened, but we're glad you love it. And they always take me to everything soccer. They take me to watch games, watch that US women's national team. We've gone.
Well, that's great though, even though, you know.
Mm. It
So
definitely helps.
it does. So with sports journalism comes like an endless amount of you giving interviews to coaches as well as players, like so many. So
Mhm.
was there ever a player that you had the opportunity to interview that you always dreamed of interviewing, or somebody that you looked up to and you had the opportunity to interview them?
Mm. I've in person, I've done one interview and I was like shocked by it because it was amazing. It was Irene Paredes from the Spanish national. She's a captain and she plays for PSG. And I got to interview her when she came to the ICC Cup in Miami. It happened to be in Miami, and I was in Miami that summer because I had already started college. And it worked out, and I interviewed her, and I was like shocked. I was like, oh. And apart from that, with the spirit, I've been able to, well, I don't do them in person because, of course, I'm not there. I work for them remotely,
Yeah.
but I've gotten to like, make questions for pretty much every player in the team at this point.
Mhm.
And I guess it's just like there is not a one specific player, but all of them because you learn like their personal side or like maybe what they're passionate about. And I just think it's so interesting that they all stick out to me in a different way, or I'm like, oh, I wouldn't have thought about
Yeah.
that. You like someone liking this, so, like so do I.
hmm Yeah, no, that's definitely fascinating because I feel like with me, I interview all of these women, including yourself,
Hmm.
on this podcast every Monday. And I'm just like, wow, I never would have thought that like this is your story or this is where you start.
Hmm.
And it's just like relating to them that really like leaves a certain feeling with me. And I'm like, they're so inspiring.
No, I agree. I can't even imagine like the podcast. That's like, dope. Why do you get to do this like every Monday? I think that's awesome. Yeah, for me, it's just like getting to write. Like, I really like writing feature stories because I just like getting to tell their story, like maybe something that no one would have known before. So it's just interesting me because you're like, oh, you see them as like this, like star and everything, but you're just a human like me. Like, it's great. I
No,
don't know. It
exactly.
creates a bond.
So speaking of like the stories that you've written or the pieces that you've um, done, is there a piece of content that is your favorite piece or something that you just love
Mm.
doing? Like a
I love I love writing feature stories. I love it. I think it's the best.
Is
It's my favorite.
Is there a future story that is the favorite that you've written that you remember?
Uh, I want to say I did one on Tori Hooster for
Mhm.
the Washington Spirit about her like involvement with St. Jude Children's Hospital. I That one really stands out to me because of like she does such a great job. Like she created this wristbands, like selling them for like $10, I think, like and giving all proceedings to them. And it was a collaboration. It's just the way that like she came about it and like how actually one of the patients like helped her like design and everything.
Mhm.
It's just very touching. I was like, like this is a story that like I you want people to read.
No, yeah, definitely.
So
So
like that one definitely stuck.
yeah. So with that being said, we're just going to take a very short commercial break and then we'll be back to discuss a little bit more about your career.
Sounds good.
All right. I'll see you in a minute. Hi guys, welcome back to Play Like a Girl. We have Alex Martin with us this week.
Wow.
We just finished talking a little bit about her career, what she does at school currently, and I just have a bit more questions to ask her before our time ends. So I just was wondering what
Mhm.
it was like covering the 2019 Women's World Cup, the Pan American Lima Games in 2019, and the Caribbean Associated Football. Like, what was it like covering all of that?
It's it's exciting and it's very different to covering pretty much anything else.
Mhm.
Just especially the World Cup. What we did was like we each of the CONCACAF team we each took one and cover it fully. So I did the US women's national team. And it's just very interesting to take such a deep like dive into a team, like
Mhm.
going from like everything the coaches and like every it actually helped me also a lot before getting to work for the Spirit because I did like recaps and like previews and everything for the World Cup, and of course the US won, so rode until then.
Mhm.
But it's just impressive, like such a big scale. Even doing it, of course, like I wasn't gonna be able to
Yeah.
go and do it from there because we don't have the resources for that. But it's just interesting, like taking such a big thing and trying to, give as much information to the viewers, the readers as
Yeah.
possible, even if they didn't watch the game or they weren't able to like what happened, what you can expect for the next one. And also you learn from other teams because you're writing about both teams. You can't just write about yours. You need to write about the US and whoever they're playing against, so the Netherlands and everything. So
Yeah.
you learn a lot about so many players that maybe you would never cover.
Mhm. Definitely. And I think it's very important just what you guys are doing when you're writing these stories because, for the viewers who weren't able to actually watch the game in front of them, they're able to read through it through your writing or through your eyes. And so
Mhm.
what you guys write and like put out on the internet is so important because it's how they're perceiving the game.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, when you say it like that, it's like, oh, that's huge. It is huge.
Yeah. Well, you're doing a great job though, so it's okay.
Thank you. We tried. Keep trying.
We're trying. So, what would you say is the most challenging aspect of your career so far?
Writing recaps for an NWSL team. That was the hardest one. It's the hardest one to get down
Mhm.
because so Washington plays. and the recap, you need to send it to the league within like an hour tops. That means you need to be taking notes throughout the game, and by halftime, you should pretty much have half of your article written.
Yeah.
And when it's done, you need to like be like wrapping it up because you need to send it. Like I give it to my boss so she can edit it, and then it can be sent to the league.
Yeah.
And how fast that is, I've never had to write anything at that fast pace ever,
Me
and like
neither.
try to get as much detail. And then also, of course, if you're writing for a team, you're not gonna you are in a way biased. Like you're not gonna write it as a third party. So also, like seeing how you make it. Like I'm writing in the Washington Spirits voice, so like making sure that it's all like hitting before I send it. That's probably the most challenging.
That seems so difficult to me though, because if I was put under that pressure to write something that quickly, I probably would stress myself out.
Oh yeah, the first one I was like my boss was like, "That's probably gonna be the hardest." He was like, "It was the hardest for me to get," and I was like, "Yeah, by the description that you're giving me, I'm not gonna enjoy it as much." And then I did it, and I was like, "That was stressful. That was very stressful." But you get the hang of it. Like then you start seeing like what you're supposed to do with like you do it faster and faster. The same with everything. So, but still, the most stressful one
Yeah.
until this day.
Well, so obviously being a woman in this industry is difficult because for many reasons. But
Mhm.
there was a video going around of female sports announcers and female broadcasters, and they were reading out the hate tweets, the hate
Mhm.
comments that these people were leaving in their videos. And these women were just so devastated, so heartbroken because people can be so cruel on the internet.
Mhm.
And especially like even during this podcast, it's not even that big yet. And I still get hate comments on here sometimes, which is so like,
Yeah,
yeah, you learn.
not surprised.
Yeah. So I was wondering if there's ever been a time where you received messages like these from any of your viewers or people around the world. And if you did or if you didn't, either one, what is a piece of advice that you would give to other females on how to disregard these comments and move past them?
Surprisingly, very surprisingly, I've never gotten anything. I guess like, well, my Instagram isn't like it isn't public, but so like no one, like I'm not like figure or anything. On Twitter, since I post mostly, my tweets and like my work, no one has really done. TikTok, I post like I like to juggle
Mm-hmm.
like soccer, and I picked it up during quarantine because I was like, I have nothing better to do. I'm gonna learn to do this. So I did that. And people were actually quite like supportive, more like, oh, this is great, like fun. So I haven't gotten any hate, but I also not like I'm big, so I guess that also goes into it. But I will say, like, I'm sure, like, if I were to get it, it's different. Like, it would probably be more helpful, like more hurtful than I would anticipate it.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that, like, people are always gonna hate on everything you do,
Mm-hmm.
even out of just jealousy or boredom. So,
Yeah.
like, if it's something that you're really passionate about, like, you shouldn't let that make you stop doing it or stop sharing it or stop posting it because it's like if you keep growing on whatever you're doing, it's just you're always gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So might as well not let it stop you
Mm-hmm.
early on, or in my case, I guess.
Yeah. You couldn't have said it any better. I think that if you are truly passionate about the stuff that you are putting on social media and you truly love what you're doing, what the people are saying that aren't very nice are just doing
Mhm.
it because they want to bring you down, even though they don't personally know you. And you can't let that happen because if you truly love something, you just have to build yourself back up and you just have to show that
Mhm.
you love it more than their hate comment.
Mhm. Also, let's be honest, if someone's commenting like hate on like your thing or something and you're not even like a public figure, well, if you're a public figure too, like whatever. But if you're not, like, this person decided to take time out of their day to like run on it, like they think enough about what you're doing to
Yeah.
like have an opinion. So I think that means you make it. Like you made it. You made it somehow.
Yeah, that's how you just have to look at it.
True.
So, if we look back at women's sports coverage around the world, 10 to 15 years ago, there was like nothing out there.
Mhm.
And it's a known fact that even in the year 2021, only 4%, literally 4% of,
Wild.
of the mainstream sport coverage is only focused on the female sports.
Hmm.
Being a female communication specialist, public relations specialist, covering these sports, how do you feel about this?
I think it's wild that like up to this day it still is like that, and that there is so little. And a lot of times people are not even aware that there is a women's league for anything, or like that the US basketball team, like the women's basketball team has won like four, like the last like 4 or 5 Olympic gold medals. Like people have no idea that because it's not seen, which is I guess why I am very passionate about what I'm doing, because I'm like, no, I, as much as I want to complain and it sucks and I wish it was better, if no one's gonna do it, I'm gonna have to do it myself to make a change.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like it's hurtful because also, well, like wanting a career in it and there being so little coverage, it makes it harder to find a job, or a job that is actually keep gonna pay you enough for you to live off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But then it just makes me want it more because I want to change that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like a bittersweet situation.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's good that that drives you though. Like it drives me and it makes me
Mhm.
want to prove to the world that maybe let's, instead of 4%, let's try and get it up to 10. And then after 10, let's move on,
Mhm.
you know?
Oh yeah. Also another way of learning. I make all my friends, everyone around me like knows that I'm obsessed with soccer, and like I force everyone to like watch the game. I'm like, there's a game, we gotta watch it. Okay, we have to do it. Like this is happening. I try to keep people in the loop. Like, and I like sports in general. I watch tennis, basketball, anything really. I can just watch. I find it very calming to watch sports for some reason. So like it's just kind of like also showing support for those other sports I might not get as much.
Yeah.
Just that's the way to increase it, I guess.
Yeah. So, what do you think it's going to take to the world to prove to them that women's sports coverage should be on national television more than it has been? And why is it taking so long?
I don't know if I have the right answer, but I would say that if people actually like if networks and stuff actually took notice into the amount of like social media
Mm-hmm.
talk and like attention that women's sports get, they will realize that there's a lot bigger of an audience. And it also takes reaching a little bit bigger of an audience, which is, for example, what I like putting things out in Spanish. Like, how do you get more people to watch? Well, you also get people away of like
Mm-hmm.
reading about it and being aware. So it's just for networks and teams and everything to realize that, there is a bigger audience than we think there is. I don't know how exactly, like how long it will take, or like how to prove that point.
But it should
Because,
be in this long, right?
but yes, it should be something, like see the NWSL had like a 500, 400% increase on like social media interactions and viewership. Why? Because you put the games on TV. If you put them, people are gonna watch them.
Mm-hmm.
You notice how much the social media interactions increase and like how dedicated the fan base is. You're like, oh, there is a big audience here. So let me go into that. I just don't think networks have
Yeah.
cared
So,
to look.
mhm. So how, when you were talking about how you keep your friends in the loop and you constantly tell them what's happening, why is it so important for women to support women in sports and even in personal life?
Because there's so much going against us
Mm-hmm.
that like if we are against us too, we can't expect someone else to come support me. Like if I'm not, I don't know, I share all the time on my Instagram, like when there's a game, when something, when everything, like Why? Because if I care about something enough, I and I don't like advocate for it, I can't expect someone else to do it when they probably don't even know about the issue.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like bringing that in, like being like, hey, if you there is this soccer, and we can watch it later, or if you, how do I know? I've heard you like this, maybe like that, and like that has made like my best friend.
Yeah.
He, I have no idea what he doesn't watch sports, but he watches all the sports with me because he knows I like it. And like I took him to a U.S. Women's national team game before COVID
Mhm.
live, and like he loved the experience and everything. It's like little by little, like that will make a difference if we all try to get at least one person involved. One person aware.
Yeah, definitely. If everyone does that, that would be amazing too because
Mhm. It will
uh,
go a long way.
it would. So, is there any specific memory where that you would like to share with us where you empowered another woman or another woman empowered you, whether it be in your personal career, your athletic career, or just in your individual life in general?
I would say that, of course, my mom has been great. She's always said you can do everything, and like she never like let me like question if I'm like she has never neither of my parents have questioned if, oh, will you be able to make a living out of like working in sport? They just support that that's what I want, and like they want me to do it.
Mhm.
But I think also in college, just my best friend that I met here, like it's hearing other people's stories, other like women's stories, and how they have trouble with discrimination, or with someone like questioning their abilities or something. Some because, well, I'm Hispanic, some because that she's black, another like she's Asian and everything. And it's just you hear their stories, and you're like, okay, like if they're also going through it, and like I'm going through it, like we can all do this. Like no,
Mhm.
so I think just everyone that I met has had that in a way.
Mhm. Well, that's really great though, because
I
it's
don't
so
know. It's a very broad answer.
no, but it's really important to be there for your friends and your family and even just your acquaintances no matter what, because you never know in your life when there's ever gonna be an opportunity, that you're gonna look back on and you're gonna be like, "Wow, like, that changed me, that empowered me, that inspired me." Mhm.
Yeah, sometimes you really don't notice like the
Mhm.
impact of like someone else's story, and then you're like, oh, I started doing this because
Yeah.
that person mentioned this and
Mhm.
that, and I'm like, wow, that is actually wild.
Yeah, you don't realize it until years after, or days after
Mhm.
it takes you. But that's the greatness of it.
I would agree. It's how you make it and
Mhm.
how everyone else makes it. You
So
don't leave enemies.
yeah. So, how would you say that you have individually changed since you began working in this industry?
No, I think I've just been made so much more aware that like what I want to do or don't takes a lot more. Well, one, props to the people that like did it from getting, for example, like the NWSL started. Like the soccer leagues had there were like two before that got canceled. So these people were working for no money, for
Mhm.
no nothing, and just bringing a league up for their passion. Like I think it's just like me that like I'm very passionate and I love it, and I want to say that I will do anything I can to like stay in it.
Mhm.
There is people that like have had to do so much more hard work that like I need to make sure I match that. Like, if I'm like giving it all,
Yes.
and it might be a lot more hard work than like you anticipate, and then it definitely has, but in a very rewarding way.
Mhm.
But it just, I think it showed me that it does take a lot more than just you saying, "Oh, I want to do this." Like,
Yeah.
okay, now you need to do it.
Mhm. It's a lot of hard work and dedication.
Hmm.
There's a lot of comparing yourself to someone else, which isn't good to do, but, that just helps you push yourself and helps drive for the better and the bigger, you know?
Yeah, and it's always nice also like I'm able to like have a reference of like, oh, this is how it's supposed to look like, or what is it supposed to look like. So,
Yeah, which is also great because if you didn't have that reference, you wouldn't know how you would wanna how you
mhm.
the first place.
Oh no, I agree. It
Mhm.
helps a lot.
Yeah. So this is like a kind of broad question, but I was just wondering where you see
Mhm.
yourself in 5 years from now.
5 years from now, so I will be, let's say, I would hopefully be working for a team, for an NWSL team. Like, probably, I would have worked for them for, throughout the 5 years, or some time, at least like over a year, and taking a communication department on,
Hmm.
making an impact.
Yeah.
Still am still as passionate as I want to be right now
Mhm.
about it. I want to say, settle down and everything, but I'm gonna be 20. I'm gonna be 27. I don't know what I'm gonna be doing. I don't know what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? I'm there for you. Keep me in the loop. I'll literally constantly be a supporter of you no matter what you do in 5 years from now.
Thank you. So would I with you because I actually love this. This is so fun. And I love getting to hear about people. So
No problem. So I just have one last final question for you. As you know, this podcast is called Play Like a Girl. So
mhm.
what do you think the significance is behind the meaning of Play Like a Girl?
Now, if you play like a girl, you're amazing. You're playing your best. You are your best. Like that should be a positive reinforcement. Like, it should be the way that you want to do it, not the lesser approach to playing.
Hmm. Hmm. Definitely. That was 100% said the right way. Um,
Bravo. Okay, good. I didn't want to mess up this last question.
no. Is there anything that you want to say to your parents? I know they're watching, or any of your family members or friends that might be watching this.
Just thank you for supporting me and all, and hopefully continue to do so.
Yes.
And thank you for having me.
Nope.
I really had a blast.
I loved speaking to you. You're so inspiring. And if you ever want to come on the show again, I will definitely have you, hands down.
Love that, then.
Okay. All right. I hope you have a great night.
Thank you. You too.
No problem. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, guys, that was Alex. I absolutely loved talking to her. She, as a freshman, made such an impact on the world and is continuing to do so today with all of the achievements that she's accomplished. So definitely check out everything that she does. She's going to go big places in the future. As always, this is the podcast called Play Like a Girl for the girls. I'm your host, Gianna Cambria, and I'll see you guys next episode. Bye.